on the escalator again.
Leave it alone.
What?
Comics.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
TV and movies. Wrestling. Music.
We are just getting started!
Finally, a podcast about things you actually care about, hosted by a couple of guys who actually care about those things too.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Maybe a little too much.
Yes, that's awesome.
The talented one, Chris Machete.
That no-talent ass clown became famous.
And Brenton, you know, that guy from your other favorite podcast.
I liked it. I was good at it.
So grab onto the handrail and don't let go.
There's a little boy caught the escalator!
This is the Kids on the Escalator podcast.
Woo!
Here's CM and BD.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hello.
The show has begun. It's another week.
Hey.
And we're here. We're live. We are on the Dean Blundell Network. It is the Kids on the Escalator podcast. Hello, Chris. What's going on over there, man?
Hey, buddy. Busy.
What's
doing
happening?
really good.
Happening in
Getting lots of gigs, trying to keep my comic books up to date. Lots of drawing stuff. It's fun, man. Life. It's good. It's getting back to normal, which I really enjoy.
One of your proteges or somebody had reached out to us from Indie Comics or something and wants to come on the show. And they got a whole section of indie comic people, and they had reached out to us about coming on. So stoked for you about that. That's going to be Comic Mania. I'll do that in a minute once we introduce our guest here. But last season, we had a gentleman on the show that is part of the Dean Blundell Network with us as well. He's got a great pod called the Talkin Buds Podcast right there. But they're talking Leafs and all the rest of it post game. Plus they've got a pop culture one as well. And I believe they do some basketball. Yeah, I think, wow. Rob, or something like that. They got a whole bunch of different ones in there. So welcome back to the show, Rob Furnish. How are you, buddy?
Football.
Hey, buddy, it's football. It's football. That's yes, right. Because no one likes basketball. Let's remember that. No one likes basketball.
All the kids on my street.
Yes, and you know what? My my wife loves it. But it's not my area of expertise. Gentlemen, thank you for having me on again.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. It's I love to play the basketball. Mm-hmm. And if they would change some things up, I'd watch it all the time. But right now, I just need to watch the last 4 minutes of every game to get what I need.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's when everyone goes, "Oh man, we're down by 107 points. Let's try for a minute." Yeah, that's.
I'm in my driveway with the tunes going and the orange ball, and just trying to do tricks out there while drinking beer. Instead, all the kids are shooting baskets, and I'm out there doing all these tricks. How many times I can smack the orange ball, swing it around, kick with my foot.
The more beer you drink, the better you probably get at the tricks.
The looser I get, that's the BMX bike out, buddy, and I start reliving that. And my neighbor's like, "Whoa, that was a close one, Chris." I'm like, "Wait, next one."
Rob, you've launched the new season now. I mean, obviously, we'll get into all the things that we're talking about. NHL kicked off tonight. My hockey pool kicked off tonight. Very exciting. But anyways, tell and the listener and everyone watching who you are, what's going on with your universe, because you're building a little universe there of some stuff. A little
podcast universe. But yes, the Talkin Buds Podcast. We've now changed the name to the Talkin Buds Leaf Show because we're sort of bringing a whole Talkin Buds network and such together. This is our 4th year doing it. It's my brother and I. We really love doing it. We pride ourselves on being the no BS Leafs podcast. 2 guys. The vibe that we really go for is 2 guys sitting around the bar having a beer, talking hockey. And if you're looking for a podcast that's like very numbers heavy and analytics heavy, I don't think will be the one for you. If you're looking for 2 guys who are really passionate about the team and watch every game and just basically passionate Maple Leaf discussion, and we don't mince words. That's the best way to put it. We're very direct in our analysis of this hockey team.
Do you have any insiders? Or is it just the 2 of you?
No, we've been having people on from time to time. We started having guests on last year. It's just been sort of a work in progress. When we first started, we were very sort of minimal technology wise. And over the years, we sort of added more and more to it. And now we've got our full studio space here in my basement. That's where we do all the episodes. And yeah, we're really sort of branching out like that, especially being a part of Dean's network now gives us access to so many great people like yourselves to collaborate with. And yeah, so look out for that this year too. Definitely.
And Dean wants you on the show.
It's gonna be a good
which
year
is
for the
great.
Leafs.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Chris. I really like their team. I really like their team. I think this is going to be, I mean, as we all know, as diehard Leaf fans, once you get to that first round, I think it's a bit of a crapshoot. But looking at their team on paper and what I saw in the preseason so far, I really like their team.
Yeah, I noticed Marner had 4 hits in the last game, which I think is in the whole last season. He's really bulked up, it looks like. And it's funny because a lot of people, you hear, well, you know, they needed to get that. Well, who cares about that? Those are the genius running the team needs to fit. But Matthews is going to be way better. Marner's going to be way better. You know what I mean? These two guys are going to be beasts this year. I'm like, Matthews is just going to destroy. He's, as I think that mentioned that Leaf fans should cherish every moment that they see Austin Matthews in a Leaf jersey and play.
Yes, sir.
He's fantastic.
He's already the greatest Maple Leaf of all time, in my opinion. And if he can stay healthy, I think he can. If he can stay healthy, I think he can hit 65 goals this year. I really can. I think you know he's only getting better. He's had it. You know, there's a certain segment of the fan base that gets on him about maybe his style choices and the way he sort of dresses and carries himself off the ice. But I really liked what I've seen from him since camp opened. He has this confidence and this air about him this year, like when he's speaking to the media and stuff that you haven't really had before. And I think you have to remember, like, when they come into the league, these are kids. These are like kids in their early 20s, and you're thrust into the spotlight of the most intense hockey market on the planet. And doing what he did last year, winning the Hart Trophy and scoring 60, I think like he's coming in this year, and the sky's the limit for him. He's got to stay healthy though. Yeah,
definitely. It was remember his first game against Ottawa, 5 goals. It was just like, even you could see, you could read his mouth on the, what the fuck, like what the heck, man. Like it's just from that game on. And a lot of players, you know, that big, it's like, okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to score 5 goals. Ah, cool. Okay, great. Awesome. But but just the fact that I think he is just, and then he's going to go on to, I don't know where he'll be, but highest paid player, like ever.
For sure.
Go ahead.
I could see him re-signing. You know,
I could too.
Bieber will be in his ear saying about this.
And dude.
Exactly. I've been up and down about this, whether Willie or won't he. And I think he will. I think, you know, he seems to really like playing here. When you're a guy like him and you like the spotlight, like this is where the spotlight is, man. Like I know you can go to other markets in the league. Like, you know, people have speculated like in LA or something like that. But like, if you want to be at the center of the hockey world, you're in it, pal. You're in it.
Yeah.
Now I do have to ask you though, as controversial as that statement that you made was, greatest Leaf of all time based on what he's done, or greatest Leaf of all time based on what you think he's going to do, or just the most exciting, best player they've ever had? Because that is covering a lot of shit, man. To say that statement. I'm going
to go with option D, all of the above. I think
all of the above.
All of the above. I think he is. He's the. There's never been, maybe Dougie in his prime. There's never been a Maple Leaf who is just on the level that he is on. Like he's arguably the greatest hockey player. And I know you look at 97 in Edmonton as well. He's a top 3 greatest player in the world today. He's the Hart Trophy winner last year, MVP of the league. And like, it's just, he can, when the puck is on his stick more often than not, as you guys know, sports betting is everywhere in this country right now. You can't turn on the TV without seeing some sort of betting commercial. The Matthews goal hits just about every night. More often than not, you're going to hit on making that bet wherever you choose to lay down your sports gambling picks. I can't. Ryan and I joke all the time that if he leaves, the podcast is over. We're not doing it anymore because I can't. Even the games the games in the past like 5 years or so that he's been here, where he's been hurt and he's not playing, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I can't watch this. This is not the same. It's not the same.
Right.
What about so then let's talk about the core. Is this still the core 4?
Well, I mean, I think I would throw Nylander in there as well. I think you gotta. These are the guys who all make the most money. Yeah, I would say so. I would say
right?
it is still the core. Yeah, I would say they are still the core. Matthews and Marner are definitely the 2 straws that stir the drink, and then Riley is definitely their number 1 defenseman, and then Tavares. You know, John Tavares is such an interesting conversation topic because he's a guy that is really polarizing. You know, if you look at the numbers on paper, he's a point a game player, and he's everything you want in your second line centerman. But when your second line centerman is making $11 million and you're a team that is so cap strapped, like Cap Friendly published all the financials for all the teams yesterday. The Toronto Maple Leafs, after LTIR, have $4 remaining on their
the Canucks
cap.
won that.
I saw that was crazy.
I know.
That crazy.
The Canucks won that. How about that shit?
So, and I think that's what makes Tavares so polarizing is he's Johnny. We all love him. He's the first guy to come home. We wanted like that. I remember, I'll never forget that day. Like when it was like John Tavares is signing with the Leafs and just freaking out and being like, oh my God, he's actually doing it.
Yeah,
but I think, when you're a team that's so cap strapped and your second line centerman is making $11 million and John Tavares is not someone who I would describe. Fleet of foot is not a term I would use to describe John Tavares. I think it's people I think sometimes are too hard on him, but at the same time, that price tag comes with a heavy expectation.
But you know what, man? The price tag side of it it's just business now, though.
Yep.
It's like trying to buy a house right now. There's no deals. You can't even move to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and get a deal. Like I'm just saying, that's the market, and I don't think that's John's fault. Even when Luongo had the shit deal out here in Vancouver, he's like, my deal is shit. They can't move me. That's like him sitting at home and the agent going, it's $80 million. Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess I'm making $80 million. Half the time, I don't think the players don't care. And that's where I want to talk about these 4 for a minute. And a question for the 2 of you, but this because you're in the market. I'm out of the market now. I try to pay attention as much as I can. But as polarizing as Tavares is, who's the first one to go then of this group? Because to me, everyone's on the, especially out here in Vancouver, everyone's on the Matthews is gone. That guy is out of there the second he can get out of there. Same with McDavid's out of Edmonton.
So.
But Tavares, like, who's the first one of this group to go? And maybe Nylander, if you're throwing that in there, who's the first one to go out of these? Because I'm sure the emotional side of people are like loving Tavares being home, but would also not discount him just bailing out and going as well. So I'm curious because they don't have they have a very small window now over the next couple of years.
Like if they were to deal somebody, or
I'm just saying what the deal, like Austin's, they're going to be talking about his deal coming up pretty soon. They're not going to be able to keep everybody. Who do they make room for? They keep Matthews, they trade Nylander, they move like what? And this is a very broad statement and it's very early in the season, but it is absolutely going to be dominating every sports show, which is going to be what are they going to do with Matthews and how are they going to keep him? Which means probably 3 people got to go. So what's going to happen here? You guys are there.
To keep them, you know what I mean? There's been so many times where I'm like, how are they going to work this? Like before yesterday, when everyone went, they had $4. It was like, how the hell are they going to with all these with all the people they have on here? I think it depends on what's going to happen this year. Like, let's say let's just say, or they make it to the finals this year. That's going to determine things as. But yeah, I think it all depends on what happens this year because they have a great team this year, and all. The other thing on the side of that fact, not to change the subject, Brent, is I think that a lot of the other teams have switched up a lot of players and they're getting teams. I don't think they have that in this year. But when I look, I think Tavares would be the easiest one to count up because he's the oldest, right?
Yeah, in terms of not re-signing him, it's interesting because if you look at Matthews' deal coming up coincides with the first time the salary cap in the league is actually going to jump in quite some time. The salary cap has been stagnant because of the pandemic for several years. So if you look at, I was looking at their cap friendly earlier, Matthews and Nylander's deals are up at the same time.
Yep.
So that's Nylander's $6.9 million cap hit comes off the books the same time as well. So if Kyle Dubas is still here, which is a whole other story in and of itself, what's going on with the general manager, it's wild to me. But Matthews is still here. I think it's just you sit down, you push the blank check across the table, you say, fill this out.
Yeah.
And once he does that, you start moving the pieces to make it work. And it's that.
I totally agree. Yep.
Yep. You look at a guy like Marner. I don't think they'd be eager to move Marner out. So whatever. But listen, if they've got to sacrifice William Nylander and his salary that also comes off the book to pay Austin Matthews, I could totally see them doing that. You don't want a guy like Nylander to just walk for nothing. But if
parity,
yeah,
there's so much parity in the league now. Not saying that Nylander is replaceable, but
yes, but if it means keeping Austin Matthews.
I watched a little bit of Moneyball the other day, and they were doing that whole bit about, well, we lost Giambi and we lost, his batting average and all these things. And Brad Pitt's character was like, well, then we're going to find 3 players to make it up.
Yeah.
So if one guy's he's getting 40, let's just find 3 guys that can do 15 goals. I know that sounds real dumbed down, but Nylander to me would be the one that would probably, have to go in that scenario. And I'm not betting that Tavares is going to be around here for the whole thing either, honestly.
And the way this team is operated, like $6.9 million is a lot of money to this team. Like if you look at their salary structure, like they've got tons of money tied up in 4 guys. And then you go down the list, it's $3.5 million, $2 million, $950,000, $840,000, $750. Like
Kerfoot's done soon too, right, buddy? And like Kerfoot, he's done, isn't he like 3.5? What's he?
Kerfoot's 3.5, and this is the last year of his deal.
Right. That's a lot of money right there.
One thing Kyle Dubas has shown that he is extremely good at is he can search through the bargain bin better than anybody.
Yeah.
And find guys and sign them to $750,000 deals, and they can come in and contribute. Like Michael Bunting is your top line winger, and he's making $950,000.
Dude, I called him. His dad it was a trash man for Toronto growing up. That guy is, and I keep the yellow green color work. I keep getting the color wrong for whatever that is, right? But he that's a working kid, buddy. When he came, we got to find things right and re-show it. But yeah, man, I knew Bunting was going to be good. I was, and you're saying
you're on that. That was probably first season.
And what
preview.
Is he worth though?
Yeah, he's your top line winger.
Like he's worth way more than that. What a steal, right?
Yeah, he's your top line left winger. He plays with your 2 best players on your team, and he's making $950,000. Last year, he was in his situation's a little weird because he technically was a rookie, even though he's way older than the rest of the rookies, and he was in the conversation for the freaking Calder Trophy last year. Like, talk about a guy
who played on he played on that Team Canada that just went and that was number 1, and a lot of those players were underdog players like himself. And they just dug down and played like animals, and they won the cup. And the goalie too was the time.
I think so.
It was crazy, right? But I remember this ragtag team of Canadians was like, "Dude, these guys are going to do it," and they did. And I think that was one of the kind of magnifying moments. Was like, "Wow, look at this kid play!" Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much parity in the league. It's so interesting to me. Like, and we'll get into. I was really happy for this guy, but I'd build around this guy in a heartbeat. But
I got one more leaf question.
Sure. Okay, I have a stat thing. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say,
Chris.
Hey, so sit down now in the minors.
They're probably gonna trade him.
Man, I really think they need somebody in there that punch faces in, like he said. I usually can see a difference in a team when they're in a rough game. They don't have that guy on the bench. It's like Marner start to be like, oh, who's got my back? Nobody does, right? So I'm just a little concerned about that. Rob, what do you think about that?
I think I agree with you on Wayne Simmons, and this is something that I think Kyle Dubas has had to learn on the job. I think when he first took over, I don't think he was toughness and pushback and being difficult to play against is the term everyone likes to use, is something that he really valued. And I think that as time has gone on and they've had these disappointments in the playoffs, he's learned like, oh no, this is something that really matters. The problem with a Wayne Simmons, for instance, is he's been in the league a really long time. He's had an incredible career. He seems like the greatest guy in the world, but he can't. This is a team that skates, and this is a team that plays fast. And Wayne Simmons can't. I don't know if he has the pace of play to keep up with the other guys in this roster. And the reason why a guy like Tom Wilson on Washington is such a unicorn is because Tom Wilson is arguably one of the toughest guys in the league, but Tom Wilson can also put the puck in the net. And that's really what you're looking for. So they brought this guy in on a PTO called Zach Aston Reese, who I believe played for Pittsburgh last year. He's going to play on their fourth line. They signed him to a 1-year contract, $840,000. And I think that's more the type of gritty. Even a guy like Bunting, we were just talking about. Bunting's a guy who'll go out there and mix it up with some guys. And I think that's where the modern day quote unquote tough guy has gone and is going is yes, you need a guy in the lineup that is gonna make the other team look over their shoulder, but that can't be his only purpose. He needs to be able to score goals. He needs to be able to kill penalties. He needs to be able to like all that sort of thing. That's
and how do you maintain how do you maintain a player throughout the season when you only need him for the playoffs, like Patrick Maroon for Tampa Bay Lightning? Yeah. The guy sucked all season, but in the playoffs, he's the one to line up against, right?
Exactly. And so, listen, if they don't end up, the word is out that they're looking to trade Simmons because I think, he's had a long NHL career. He doesn't want to play in the minors.
They just want to help him out. It's like a Simmons-friendly deal for.
Yes. Yeah. They want to send him to a place where he's going to play in the league. But maybe,
Florida.
As you get, if he doesn't, maybe as you get later into the season, you could look at inserting him into the lineup. But I think they look at this guy, Zach Aston Reese, and are like, this is more the type of quote unquote tough guy we want to have in our lineup.
Right. And then maybe when you get to the playoffs, trade debt for somebody who you might be able to steal for. It might be a game changer here and there.
Yes.
Good plan, man.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this to the two of you, myself included. I mean, being a fan, but what's unacceptable? What is the only accepted outcome this year? And I have to say this from someone living in the West, listening to radio here versus radio. And we get Merrick's feed here, so it's fine. I listen as much as possible. Obviously, everyone's like, if they don't make the Stanley Cup Final, it's a complete wash. It's like the Jays going out on that game, and everyone's like, they should have at least made, the ALCS or something.
Oh,
that would have been acceptable.
Okay, I think the Leafs need to make to the end of their. Well, they got to make it to the game before the Cup at least. If they don't make it to the end of the was the conference final. Yeah,
that's going to make it to the conference final.
I'm just sure. They don't make it to that. If they don't make it through 2 rounds, then I would say there's going to be a huge disappointment. If they can make it to 3 rounds, like personally, if they can make it to 3 rounds and it's like a tough one there at the end, I'm cool with that. Something's got to be done. You know what? If they don't make the playoffs at all, obviously heads are going to roll.
I got to go Stanley Cup Final, man. For me, it's got to be Stanley Cup Final, and I'll tell you why. It's not the classic shit that we take as Leaf fans is like, and everyone can't wait for them to go in the first round. But it's time for these guys to shut everyone up. And at some point, to me as a fan, I can't defend them anymore. At least when we went to and I don't want to be nostalgic about the Gilmore era and all the rest of it, but those guys took them all the way and all the way as far as they could absolutely do with nothing left to give. And then everyone was like, that's it for those guys. They've given us every single thing that they can give us. Okay, blow it up. This team loses, and I feel like I'm like, where's the other level? This is the year for me where they've got to go to the Stanley Cup Final. I'm sorry, man. I'm still recovering from the Boston thing. There has to be the Stanley Cup Final this year. And then if they lose in the Stanley Cup Final, I'll handle it. But
my bar is way lower than your guys. I think if they win a single round, it'll be deemed a success. I think Kyle Dubas's entire job. When is the last? Can you guys ever remember a time in professional sports where it's been public knowledge that the general manager's contract has not been renewed and is hinging on a first round playoff win? Now, I don't necessarily believe that. I think if this team has the regular season that it's projected to have, which is over 100 points, I could see them re-signing, at least giving them one more year. But I think the weight of the world is on these guys' shoulders to win a round. Mm-hmm. And I think once they win a round, everything after that, from an internal perspective, is gravy.
Let me give you a different perspective then. Let me give you a different perspective then. If the Vancouver Canucks make the playoffs,
yep,
right, and actually win like a round, people are going to be like, this is fucking great, because they've had a couple of rough years and last year they missed it by this and blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, wow, that's progress. If Toronto only wins the first round and goes out in the second round, that's not progress to me. That's only 2 extra games, 4 extra games. It has to be all the way for me. Has to be. And then I'm going to be like, blow it up, man. I'm serious. I'm tired of fucking watching Mitch little baby pants there not do anything in the, I'm just tired of it. I'm not seeing any fucking grit from this team that gives me any belief, at least from what I saw, that they would do it. And it's so frustrating.
That was a tough team. You got to get.
They're all tough,
gave
Chris.
Them respect
they're
for
all
last
tough.
year from.
They're all tough.
No, I know they are.
Tough.
I know they are. But it's, I'm not that black and white with it. You know what I mean? Like there's the fact that
I'm with you, Chris.
I'm tired of taking shit out here
as
a Leaf fan in Vancouver.
When they lost to Tampa Bay and then Tampa, Florida, like right out of the rink, I was just, there you go, man. Because during the regular season, man, Florida was a dominating team. I was scared every time the Leafs played them.
When the Lightning made it to the Stanley Cup Final, Jared Bednar, the coach of the Colorado Avalanche, said that when we watched tape on how to play this team, we watched the Leaf series because they were the team that pushed the Lightning to the brink. And I'm with you, Chris. There's a difference between blowing a 3-1 lead to the Montreal Canadiens and losing in 7 in a like back and forth hard fought series against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions, who have the best goalie in the world, in my opinion.
They do, and they do.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I just that's where I'm at, guys. Yep. That's just where I'm at with it. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm over last year. Fine, I'm over it. I'm with you, Rob. I'm with you, Chris. I'm with you. Fine. 7 games against the Stanley Cup champion. Totally get it. I'll give you that. But it can't be that now. It just can't be that.
But it can't be that. There is something to be said for getting the monkey off your back, and if they break through that wall, if they get through that first round, everyone in that organization is just going to go.
They're going to be so high.
Yes,
they're doing mass amounts of cocaine. They're just going to be like, whoa! Could you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. And I think
the buzz though.
Yes. Oh my God, this place will go crazy. It'll be like we won the Stanley Cup. It'll be like they won the Stanley Cup.
They need to sweep that first round.
Oh, well, it depends on.
Now you're being really hard.
No, it's a joke. But I'm saying, how great would that feel? Where they're like, okay, last year, Boston, Montreal, all blips. Watch this, bam! Holy shit! There's the team, and then we go.
A lot of people, including myself, are picking them to win their division. Now, there's a caveat: the goaltending has to hold up its end of the bargain. But there's a lot of people, like I said, including myself, who are picking them to win the division. And if that's the case, that means they'd be playing a wild card team in the first round. So they on paper, they'd be the favorite. So we'll have to wait and see how it all goes. Yeah, this, you know what? Like when I look at this
is based on 800 fan survey. This isn't obviously critics and coaches and all that shit. This
looks about right to me. This looks like the Leafs and the 2 Florida teams at the top of their division. You know what's so great? You know what's such a great thing for hockey in this country? Look at that Pacific Division. The 2 Alberta teams on top. Like that's fantastic.
That is cool.
And I don't think It is amazing, and I think Calgary is it's gonna be interesting to see how Edmonton does with Campbell now with that offense. More, they're not as defense good there in Edmonton either, and I know Toronto doesn't have a very good defensive team either, but Edmonton's
got a couple of Toronto's old guys in there, right?
Yeah, they've got. It's very interesting to sort of see this sort of prediction, and you're right. I don't think it's wrong. A sleeper picks though for everybody as far as let's remove Toronto from the equation unless we think they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Colorado to repeat, yes, no, or do we have any sleepers in here? What do we think? What do we think to win to win the whole thing?
Colorado, put the X beside their name. Like they're winning that division. Carolina is the team I like in the Metropolitan. I also like the New York Rangers.
Rangers team as well. Man, I think tough team.
Yeah, one of the best goalies in the world there.
Yeah,
and Shesterkin. And honestly, this looks about right to me. Like if I had to sit down and really think about listing the teams from best to worst in each division, this is probably how I'd have it.
It's gonna be
funny. The teams that used to scare me don't scare me anymore now. Like I'm looking at Boston, who we were all like, oh cripes, and then Washington, and I'm like, well, okay, well, they're getting a little old. They're not as tough as they used to be. They're gold. And then St. Louis, man. St. Louis used to scare me. They were so friggin' tough. They don't scare me anymore. And Vegas doesn't really scare me anymore.
It's funny because last year, I think when we were on this, Chris, we were talking about predictions for the final. Now it's interesting. They're talking about the Florida Panthers actually potentially being one of the most disappointing seasons, even though they came out of a great season last year, that they may be in some trouble, which I thought interesting. Washington, people are thinking Washington is going to take a step back this year, which is interesting. I had the Islanders way higher last year and this year, and I don't know what's going on with them. But it's very, very interesting. I think everyone else is relatively the same. As far as your goaltending question goes, Rob, I had Samsonov in my pool last year, and all I can tell you is he got me a shit ton of points.
Listen, we've talked a lot about goaltending on our podcast since we came back when training camp opened. And I really think, when they went out and got these two guys, Matt Murray specifically, in the summer, a lot of people were upset and were like, Matt Murray, really? And he's looked really great this preseason. And one of the things we've talked the most about is, how important is preseason hockey? And I think for your Austin Matthews, it doesn't matter at all. But for a guy like Matt Murray coming in here, he had a couple rough seasons in Ottawa where he dealt with injuries and he wasn't very good. Like, let's call a spade a spade. For him to come in here and play well, if he went out in one of these preseason games and he got shelled for 4 or 5 goals, the media narrative and the fan narrative the next day would be, oh, Kyle Dubas brought in his guy Matt Murray and he stinks. Look at this. There they go. They're starting the season with this guy. And the thing that I always say about Matt Murray is, if you two guys didn't know anything, and I put Matt Murray and Jack Campbell's resumes in front of you, which one would you choose? You choose the guy with the 2 Stanley Cup rings. Yeah. That's what you'd choose. And
the guy who outdueled Andre Fleury.
Yes, we all loved Jack Campbell. Like, we all loved him. Everybody loved Jack. But I'm sorry, the contract that Edmonton gave him is just not something that I thought the Leafs were prepared to do, which turned out being true. And is starting the season with Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov really all that different than starting the season with Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek? I don't think it is.
It's better.
I think it's better.
I could just tell you. I can tell you from just watching Sam. I just tell you from having Samsonov all last year in my pool as one of my. I had a main goalie and then I had him as my backup, but he split duties. He split duties in Washington, and he got me a shit ton of points. He was solid. He never got blown out. He had a bunch of shutouts. He was the most solid, one of the most solid players I had on my roster all year. Yeah. So
and one of the things that any hockey talking head has said about Matt Murray is, if you look at his career, he does better when he's competing with someone and someone's pushing him. Chris, you just made the point about Marc-Andre Fleury in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Like, so if you're bringing in Samsonov and they're sort of like 1 and 1A, like that should get. I thought Matt Murray looked. I did not realize how big he is. He's
Oh,
huge.
right? I know.
He's a,
Oh, 6'6", isn't he? Or 6'3"?
yeah.
He's huge.
And he's got the big equipment. Like he's a big man. Like I think we kind of got used to like the slenderness of Jack, right? And it's like he made his first start a couple weeks ago, and I was like, Jesus, this guy's huge.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with you don't need to play 70 games. They can do 45. They can be 40 each. They can do a 70-30 or like a whatever it's going to be the split, but it doesn't need to be that much. All right, last question then, guys. We did this last year. I had one of the teams from the final in Stanley Cup Final prediction team. I'll start because I already dropped it out. Colorado, Toronto, with I'd love to say a Toronto win on a Game 7 OT from Austin, but I would think the win that Colorado has, they want to defend it at least for this year. I'm going to go Colorado, Toronto with a Colorado Game 7 win. Go.
Do you want to go first, Chris?
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah, I need to take
Okay, I'm going to say, like, oh, man. I would love to see, Toronto versus the Leafs Flames. Like, that's what I would love to see.
Yeah.
Or the Leafs Oilers. Just two Canadian teams. And I just think that'd be great.
I love it.
I think that'd be fantastic. Who do I really think it's going to be? I don't think it's going to be the Leafs. I almost think it's going to be a repeat. You know what I mean? Oh, man. I'm just going right now, so I'm just going to say it's a repeat. Yeah, you know what? Head just keeps going to Tampa Bay versus Colorado again. I don't know why.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is going to be a team that's going to you're going to look at them in the regular season and you're going to go, oh, they've taken a step back. It's finally caught up to them. And then the playoffs are going to start, man. And they got number 88 in the net. And I have such a hard time.
Provided they can get through the injuries, but any injuries or anything like that.
The Rangers, I would like us to see how the Rangers look in the regular season as well. They were on their way to becoming a great team, and man, they got that goalie. Igor, what's his name?
Igor Shesterkin.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
That guy's gold, man. And they a good team going on. Who's coaching them right now?
Gerard Gallant, isn't
Gerard
it?
Gallant. Yep.
Okay, he's doing a great job.
The guy that was kicked off the bus in Florida.
Yes. Yeah. The guy got the guy. Yeah.
We're gonna stop for gas. If you could just go there for a minute.
Go, Charlie, go.
And then, go. So then now he's showing him.
I'd be interested
anyways,
to see.
Rob?
Rangers are my black sheep, kind of like, wow. I'm interested to see how the Rangers are going to do, because I got a feeling that if their goalie stays healthy for the play, they could do a deep run. I'm going
to go all in, Chris. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to go Avalanche and Rangers. I think, the Rangers. Yeah. The Rangers, the Lightning played them in the East Final last year, and it was the battle of the two best goalies in the East. And I think this year, Shesterkin edges out Vasilevsky. And I think that I'm going to go. I think the New York Rangers are a team that I think is really, by the time we get to like November, December, we're going to be having conversations about, are the New York Rangers the best team in the Eastern Conference? That's what I think.
I agree.
There you have it from Rob Furnish from Talkin Buds Leafs Cast.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Called it the Leafs Cast, and then you've got a pop culture one, which we're going to get into now. And now let's one more second. Mine was Colorado, Toronto, based on my wishes for Toronto.
Right.
I know.
to be in there because I can't do it. I can't do another. Even it's I can't. I mean, my point I wanted to make earlier, Rob, was how much time do these guys have left as a group? That's my thing. It's harder to patch third line guys and fourth line guys in. How much time does this core group have left?
Well, to me, the clock seems to be ticking on the general manager more than, and quite honestly, Brendan Shanahan. Like, everyone focuses on Kyle Dubas, but it's like, Kyle Dubas is Brendan Shanahan's guy, and I find it hard to believe that Kyle Dubas does anything without Brendan Shanahan's knowledge and say so. So I think if the clock is ticking on the front office more than it's ticking on the core, that's what I think.
Funny if that front office goes though. then what does the new office do? And what are they faced with? And they still have cap problems. And
Yep.
I don't mean that these guys can't play. What I'm saying is time is ticking on all of them being able to stay together, which means we're losing this magic that is in front of us right now. And we're going to lose it sooner than later, which is why I want them in the final to see what they got. Because to your point, Chris, getting past that first round, we may see this fucking insanity, and they just blow through everybody after that.
Dude, I say the buzz they are get from that is going to be the best buzz, and they're going to want more. They're like, "Wow, feel through one round. Can you imagine winning the cup?" And they're going to be yeah. They're going to go for it, man.
Getting the monkey off their back, like they play in that first round, and they're like, "Oh God, like if we lose again, oh my God." And you know what? Like if they do it, they can just sit back and go, "Oh, we did it. Like it's over. Like we can focus on what's next. We don't have to think about this again." Like I think there's a lot to be said about
Toronto's
that.
quickly becoming like the New York Mets, like the whole thing with the Jays going down and no one, like the whole thing is like something needs to happen. You know what I mean? Something needs to happen. So, okay, moving on. That was the sports portion. We got a couple more minutes and we'll go here. As we know, a couple weeks ago, Chris did a review on Thor. And he wasn't feeling it, and I was also not really feeling it. I thought it was a bit campy, and I wasn't
especially being a musician. The Guns N' Roses, like as soon as those you get like just negatively, like every time a song came, a moment where you wanted to hear like bubble like, and it was the worst song ever. I just and then I didn't.
We're rock guys. We're rock
guys. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like and that song, if I'm a Sweet Child of Mine in just a normal day circumstance, I'm going to leave I don't want to hear that song ever again for the rest of my life, to be honest with you. Thor and an impactful scene comes up, and Sweet, do you see what I'm saying? And now this big war scene kicks in, and I'm like, here we go, Zeppelin, God of Thunder, something. Paradise. Oh, you're killing me. Well, dude, like that's like choices that me kill it. All right. Now you got this love affair between a hammer and an axe. That's redonkulous. I don't mean that at all. Having Natalie Portman in the film was redonkulous. Said goodbye to her. Why is she back in the movie? We don't need her in the movie. There's so many more characters from Gore the God Butcher. Oh my gosh, that we could have brought in. There was no tie of Gore the God Butcher to the symbiotes, to Venom, to anything like that. Again, redonkulous. They made a joke of him, which I guess played with the movie. He was the Joker of the movie. Okay. Christian Bale did an amazing job, by the way. I loved the part of him meeting the gods and being disdain with them. I thought that was pretty cool. I love the jokiness with the Guardians of the Galaxy because it works. Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor is not, when you're fighting Gore the God Butcher, you can't, to me, as a comic book fan, after reading the God of Thunder, Gore the God Butcher series, you can't take that angle successfully with it. This to me, this did not work from the get-go. Wrong guy, Taiki Waititi, wrong. You got the Grandmaster in the last he did. And again, Jeff, the comedy works perfect. Amazingly. Gore the villain. You have to reflect the villain. You got like Batman, and a lot of people do, is his rogues gallery. You have to do the villain correctly. Now you got a great villain. The villain is supposed to open up the door for Venom. Where was that?
An incredible actor playing him. He did such a good job. And Thor kind of pissing all over everything. Whoa, who-do-do-do-do-do. And I did not like Natalie Portman in there. I did not think Natalie Portman needed to be in there at all. A funny joke. I saw this interview with Natalie Portman. She's like, Taiki Waititi was talking about doing the Star Wars movie, and he asked me if I wanted to be in it. She's like, dude, I've already been in Star Wars movies. Like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Like, no, scared about. And trust me, I really like him. Picture him doing that though. Yeah. Yes.
You love the guy.
He's gonna be Princess Leia.
Yes.
I love the guy. I think he's brilliant, but you don't do a Marvel movie role like that. Especially if there's so
just pick.
If you had Hercules come in and play more off of that whole God thing, I might have bought into it. But Gore the God Butcher and Thor's running around peeing jokes, fart jokes all over everything, you lost me. So there were so many times that I actually was just like looking around the room, man. Okay, so there we go, Rob. Sorry. So Go, buddy. Go. I'm not going to hack on you. Go ahead, man.
So I think we don't have enough time. This would require us to do like a full hour-long podcast. And I'll get to Thor in a minute. But I think there's a bigger conversation to be had here about the current state of the MCU. I have not loved a lot of stuff from the MCU since Avengers Endgame. And they've gone down this direction with their Disney Plus shows, and it's just comedy and silliness dialed up to 11. And I look at a film like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and I'm really looking forward to that, because that, to me, from what I've seen from the trailers, looks like a return to the MCU that we all loved before they've gotten off on this silly like side road that they've gone down. And I think it's a huge problem going on with the MCU right now. Like, it's not all terrible. Like, there's some stuff that works, but for the most part, it hasn't been great since Avengers Endgame.
I just want to interject one thing. When they take somebody like Thor, who isn't, like, if you read the God of Thunder about that story that they projected on the film, that's not the same Thor. If you read a She-Hulk comic book, she's, before Deadpool, all her covers were like, "Buy my, going to come and rip up all your X-Men." Cover. It was supposed to be that way, right? That's the one thing and the other thing I did like, the thing about She-Hulk that I'm enjoying. I like this kind of stuff in a TV show. When you overdo it in a movie, I find it's really hard to keep. She-Hulk is also showing the third tier villains. And I don't know, like, over beers, but I am the third tier villain. I'm the kind of guy that once you start drinking, man, what if they took this villain and they did this with him? Like, I just love that. So when I saw Leap in the last She-Hulk, I was like over the moon, like leapfrog. So I get, and I totally get why people don't like She-Hulk. I totally get it. My wife loves it. One of her favorites, right? And she's a huge
when you've got her twerking with Nicki Minaj is where you kind of lose.
Terrible. Hidden scene. Now, terrible. Hidden scene.
Yes.
But you know how many oh, look at her go with me. No, it's so cute. Like, they were digging it, right? I know. Now, you were mentioning about how the Marvel Universe is like, it's not hits all that. They're trying to please every brother. And this is what happens. It's like the last Star Wars movies. Okay, we the base core. Now let's just please everybody. Well, we got to change this. We please, and I think that's what. Not to cut you off with all this, but I think that's what's maybe happening here. But go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
So to touch on Love and Thunder, I didn't love it at all either. You know, there was the story that after they did Thor: The Dark World, the second one, that Chris Hemsworth was very he was not happy with the direction of the character and the role, and he wasn't enjoying playing the character anymore. And when he met with Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel, they came up with this idea to make Thor a little more humorous, which I thought they hit perfectly on in Thor Ragnarok, you mentioned earlier with Jeff Goldblum, and then he was kind of the silly dad bod Thor in Avengers Endgame, which also worked in the context of that movie. The problem with Love and Thunder is they took all the things about Ragnarok that were great, dialed them up to 11, and it was just incessant, nonstop humor for 2 hours. And it's even when my mom is leaving the theater and going, "That was a bit silly. You've gone too far." Like my mom is.
You know where it worked for a second. Let me interject for 1 second. You know what was funny and was the fat Thor as a joke once.
Yes.
The fat Thor was like, "That's funny," and then that's it. Leave it.
Yes.
And that's what I felt this whole movie was. And the whole movie was okay. Watiti did a great one. Let's just keep that one joke going.
Yeah. And I jumped, and where I said to Chris, and I'll jump back out because the Marvel people should be in on this. But one of the things that I hated, and you touched on it, Rob, was the dialogue for me is like, people don't speak like this. Like they don't. They don't
Yep.
do the little thing, and like Modern Family started that. Like I'm just saying,
Yeah.
people don't speak this way, and
Right.
so they're
Yep.
starting to write these movies in this kind of like lingo,
It's
and
gotten
it's
completely out of hand.
music is going
Yep.
like this as well, right? Like all the Machine Gun Kelly hits have this thing, and all the new country songs have the thing. The new like almost every new song has this exact same hook in it.
Mhm.
Weezer just did it, but they study it. But I'm just
Imagine
saying,
Dragons, same drum beat and chant in
exactly
every song they write.
what I'm saying. Exactly, what I'm saying. It's exactly what's happening, and then now it's moving into this movie universe.
Yep.
It's now
Well, and-
moving into this movie universe. Now Weezer gets a pass because he studies music, and he's just like, watch me write a hit. Watch me
Yeah.
write a hit, because I know that if I do this, this, and this, it'll be on the radio for the next 25 years. Rivers, as we've discussed before, genius.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. But when it comes to the dialogue and all this stuff, when it comes to Thor, I was so annoyed at the conversations between people. I'm like, people don't speak like this.
100%. And that's why I brought up Wakanda Forever, because Wakanda Forever, it's like, yes, this is serious. There's stakes. You have the real life emotion of Chadwick Boseman passing away, and how that's going to affect all the characters of Wakanda, and then Namor's in it, and it's going to be like a war between Wakanda and the Atlanteans, and like there's going to be.
Did you see what they did?
No,
it's not Atlantis. Did you see what they did? They're going the Mexican route.
No.
They're doing it's Aztec instead. They're not using Atlantis. Oh, cool. I'll go ahead and discuss this with you. Shit, for some reason, from Atlantis to like Mexican descent, like the Aztec things from way back, Sumerians and all that stuff. They're taking that route instead, and they're not calling it Atlantis at all. So he they were gonna, you know how Namor originally kind of looked Asian.
Yep.
He's gonna have darker complexion, like Atlantis complexion from back in the day, kind of thing.
So but still, so it's gonna be like like his people battling with the people of Wakanda, and it's just
sorry, it's gonna be amazing. That's your change. Oh, Atlantis is gone, but it looks like it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so excited for it. Is it's not gonna be silly. It's gonna be like, this is gonna be so like, man, like, get ready, bring some tissue with you for the scenes of like talking about Chadwick Boseman and stuff like that, and it's gonna be amazing. And then everybody's like, who's the next Black Panther? Is it Shuri? Is it like, who is it? Right? Like, and like, that's exciting. And you look at like the goofiness in Love and Thunder, and it's just like, after if you spend the entire movie bashing people over the head with humor, it stops working. If you sprinkle in the little quips and jokes throughout, it's a nice sort of relief during a serious film. But
or if the characters call for it, right? Like if
I just think
Guardians.
Yes, perfect. I just think Taika Waititi and Marvel just took what worked about Ragnarok and were like, we're gonna turn the volume on this all the way up, and it just didn't work. And I'm with you on Guns N' Roses, although I love GNR, but I'm with you on like the classic GNR stuff. It's like, for me, it's Paradise City. I could go 10 more lifetimes without hearing Paradise City.
But that's the whole thing. Like, look at what Master of Puppets from Stranger Things. Look what happened to them. They took not that that's an obscure Metallica song, but they did take a song that doesn't get played on the radio every day, really, and said, "Watch
Kate
this."
Bush was that Kate Bush song, running up that hill and running up that building. I listen to that all the time. But when I saw that scene, what is her name? Not Sam. What's her name? Max. When Max is running in slow mo and they're playing that song, I'm just like, that was fucking Brit. Now, and they have some humor in Stranger Things too, and they balance out that amazing, right? But that scene, man, with that song, that's what I'm talking. And that Kate Bush song was just pulled out of nowhere. Like that's like well done, right? That's
the people
but grabbing the three biggest guns in all time, like what guns? We'll just take the 3-4 biggest ones they've got that everybody's heard. I just don't understand that.
Like, they should have dropped the Deftones in there. The Deftones would have been
anything.
Shove it. Well, just people have been like, "Whoa, shit!" Because then we would be like, "Well, at least they played the Deftones."
Yeah,
it's like, or it's like,
remember Thor's gearing up to fight on the last one, and they come into the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, and that was just like perfect, man. You know, these scenes.
Yeah.
You know what's happened though?
Gearing up and it's
You're
like,
going to see this more though. You're going to see this more, Chris, because all the bands have sold their publishing. There's a
Yeah, I know they have.
There's a guy that
I
there's
know.
somebody that is buying everything and then reselling it. So this stuff you might not have heard. I'm not saying Guns did that. I haven't actually checked to see if they did. What I'm saying is that a lot of the stuff that you would be like, why is that in there? Well, it's just because they sold their catalog and then and now
somebody else
MGM
just sold a bunch of theirs too.
Yeah, MGM's
man,
going, shit, we can have that song now.
But somebody else just
it's
sold
crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Bunch of theirs. We're going to start hearing them. I can't remember who it is, man.
But yeah, I think, we talk about this on my other podcast, Talkin Pop, from time to time. And I think that, Marvel, also another thing that has affected Marvel is the streaming service and the need for constantly pushing out content, right? Like we need more stuff to put on the streaming service. And what's happened is they've watered it down, and it just doesn't feel the same as it did during the Infinity Saga. It's not the same.
No, I'm not getting
the first Iron Man came
anymore.
out.
Yep.
Chris?
They're not bringing the connection to the characters through anymore. I saw a great still from the movie, and it's Namor. It's this big scepter in one hand, holding up a female Black Panther, just like disgusted with her, dude. And she's like, "Oh my, what the hell, man!" Like, and he's just but this is Namor, man. Like,
Look,
man.
Get ready for. Like I said, bring your tissues to that. Bring your tissues to that.
It's gonna be so good because you're actually going to have not just fans, but like countries basically fighting each other, and a civilization that was brought down by the rest of the world that has such cultures that have chips on their shoulders that all of a sudden are like, "Hey, wait a minute. This is my area." No. Well, wait do you see what I have? No, wait do you see what I have? Imperial sex. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be thick.
Yeah, and just some of the lines that they've thrown in the trailer, like you've got Angela Bassett's character, Ramonda, and she's like, "We know what you think of us. We've lost the protector." And then we see the new female Black Panther drop down, and then you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like, yeah, it looks like that's the stuff that Marvel's missing now. Like, that's the stuff that they're not hitting on. That's why I'm so excited for that movie. It's like, finally, let's go.
Yeah.
And here's one more that Chris was excited about.
Thor trailer?
Well, I'm just dropping that on you right now, Chris. Check it out.
Oh yeah, that is amazing.
Look at the headline though.
Oh, it's not just this. They delayed 4 or 5 of them. Like the big story last week was what happened with Blade. Like a few weeks before they're supposed to start filming Blade, the director drops out, and now they're rewriting the whole script. And it's so that's delayed indefinitely. And you've got there is no more perfect casting than Mahershala Ali playing Blade, and now you're gonna have to sit and wait for that. And there's all other kinds of things happening with Marvel now too that I'm so interested to see. Like the announcement last week that Hugh Jackman's gonna be in Deadpool 3, and everyone's excited about that. But how are they gonna do?
Chris can explain it. Chris is gonna explain it. Chris, explain it.
Wolverine. The movie Logan was in. If you watch again, it was in 2029. So everything's for that,
right? But how do you do because the first 2 Deadpool movies are Ryan Reynolds at his absolute peak, so how do you do relentless dick jokes in a Marvel movie they did in Deadpool 1 and 2? So that's what I'm fascinated to see. I'm almost thinking, and it's the same sort of thing now that they're bringing in the Netflix series and The Punisher. I would love it if they did some sort of, and I was hoping Moon Knight was going to go in this direction, and it didn't. I'd love to see them do some sort of Marvel Knights or Midnight Suns, where it's R-rated.
I think it's coming,
type
dude.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because how do you bring in John Bernthal as Frank Castle when that show on Netflix was so violent? And how do you bring him in and just water it down like that? It's come on.
Yeah, they're gonna have to have that whole Suns. I remember when Marvel was really starting to go, okay, we got to separate these titles a bit, right? So we'll get the Midnight Suns going. We'll just kind of let the violence go. Disney's gonna have to come to that, especially because Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are not gonna walk away quietly or walk quietly into this movie. They're gonna be going, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, and I'm sure they've already thanked Kevin Feige. I'm sure they're just like, hey man, Here you go.
Yep.
Do it up. And I definitely think that it's going to be one of those, you're going to have the funny great guy kind of thing, because Wolverine, like they do in the comic books, how Wolverine's just like, he gets and he'll like chop his arm off or something, like on a whim or whatever. And I think they'll really play that. I'm always like, okay, we got Deadpool, we got Wolverine, that's great. Who's our villain? But speaking of X folks and villains, did you see the Sinister show coming up?
No.
Oh yeah, Mr. Sinister's got a TV show coming up, and it's going to lead in all this cool X-Men stuff. So he may be the villain. I don't know. My concern. I love Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman because they love those. I think they've actually bought physically into those characters. Whatever they're going to do is going to be mint, and they're going to do whatever it takes to do it. Who's the villain? I need to know.
That is super. See, stuff like that is exciting.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah. I just spent the whole time saying like, Marvel is not hitting for me as it did once. But when you start talking about all these kinds of things, like, yeah, it is. There's definitely things to be excited about. It's just like, let's just be a little more tactful with the silliness going forward.
I agree.
I'm with you, man. I can't stand that shit, right? Like, I can't stand writing like that where they're forcing you to be like, oh, that's smart. No, it's not. It wasn't. There's nothing smart about it. It's like, it's overwriting to get all the writers in.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
So that being said, how do you guys feel about Taika Waititi's take on Star Wars coming up? Because at first I was kind of like, this will be great.
Honestly,
I'm thinking.
I think it's I think it's going to be more protected than you think, Chris. I think that Favreau and those guys are going to. I think that team.
It's not going to happen.
Like, they're not actually going to film it.
I think they'll bail on it. Man, I don't think they'll have it happen.
Yeah, maybe. No. I mean, he's really got to come to the table with something, because with the work that Favreau's doing and what's his nuts, it's like it got to be as good as that.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know what to think about Star Wars anymore, man. Like I'll say I've only watched one episode of Andor, and I really, really liked it. And I've been someone who's been clamoring to we don't need the Skywalkers in everything. Not everything needs to have the word Skywalker mentioned multiple times. And so that's something about Andor. Again, I've only watched one episode, but that's something that I enjoyed about that. It just seems kind of like a different vibe, like a street level type Star Wars vibe. And I hope they go more in that direction. I liked Obi-Wan Kenobi. I didn't love it. I thought all the Vader stuff was kick-ass, but like it wasn't. I didn't love it. I don't know. Like the Mandalorian is great, but outside of that, it's just you mentioned the movies earlier. I completely agree with you. Like I don't know. For me, like when I look at Star Wars, it's like just make a show about the Sith. Just make a prequel show.
Thank you.
Go back to Plagueis. Yes, go back to Plagueis. Go back to Bane. Let's do an origin show about Palpatine becoming Sidious, and we see all these like OG Sith lords. Yes. Why? Like why?
Yep.
Yes. Why? Like all these guys sitting around a boardroom in Disney making millions of dollars can't come up with the idea of making a Sith origin TV show.
What's that?
I
Sith
do think
planet?
it's going to happen.
What's that Sith planet though? Cobalt or no? What's the Sith planet?
I think it's. I want to say it is. It's. They have the Sith.
The Sith planet.
I think you're going to see that.
Korriban. Yeah, Korriban.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So a Korriban. So this is what should they have done instead of the new movie? And I said you start the movie with that planet, and then you got this huge ship, and then this little ship jets out, and it's the start of the new Sith. The start of the new Sith. Could have been any character. Didn't have to be. It could have been any dude. But this is the beginning of the Sith. You have to get the evil in there. Star Wars is the light and the dark. When you bring in the dark from like 30 decades ago, man, him anymore.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and also if like we've heard so many stories, like whether you've read the books or comics or watched the animated shows or whatever about the origins of the Sith, and like even if you go back to Attack of the Clones, where Palpatine's talking about Plagueis the Wise. It's like, let's see a show about Plagueis. Let's see a show.
I think you're
going to
see it. We touched on this at the end of the Kenobi thing, and with the Vader thing. I think we said something along the lines of that whole thing of Hayden Christensen kind of like being thrown onto a planet and
and being
basically
punished by the Emperor,
basically punished by the Emperor. You know, and that's how you start like the whole series is him basically being banished. I think it's coming. Honestly, personally, I think it's going to come because there's just too many people on that side smart, and Kathleen's kind of out. She's sort of executive, but it's still, but there's Favreau and Fellini and all those guys. There's just enough smart people, I think, over there that probably have a massive board going. All of us, they're all asking us for like a fucking Sith show. So we've got to do it. How do we do it? Who's our Sith master? This guy knows everything. We're calling Chris Machete and Rob, and they're going to write it. You know, there's enough people in that world.
I could write that. Yeah. I could totally like. I got the beginning scheme of it and everything.
I mean, they have Kevin Smith on speed dial as well. You know what I mean? To be able to be like, Kevin, what should we do? And I'm sure Kevin's going, you need a goddamn Sith series or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
it
anyway,
boggles the mind, especially in the day and age, like I touched on earlier with Marvel, about how they're like, it's very clear that like Disney is all over them to like populate the streaming service. It's like, make that show for Star Wars. Like, let's go.
Right?
Yeah.
Rob, thanks for coming by, buddy. You're going to come by again, I hope.
Yeah, buddy.
Absolutely.
That's the Talkin Buds Talkin Buds Leafs Cast now. There's a new logo
Leafs
Cast. Send me so I can promote it. Leafs Cast, and you're also doing a popcast. So I don't know if you're going to be on Blundell's network with that, or you're just going to have it part of the Talkin Buds podcast. Are you going to change the name and then have a series of shows? What's the plan there?
Yeah, I'm sort of making a Talkin Buds network here, and like we like in conjunction, we'll with Dean as well, and have sort of add those to the network too. And yeah, it's the start of something. The Talkin Buds Leaf Show is the mothership. And we're having a bunch of little lifeboats, little life rafts leave the mothership, and we're going to create a fleet. Yeah,
that's great, buddy. Best of luck to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll come back and say hello, my friend, and all the best with the show. Yeah. And we'll hold you to these predictions, and we'll come back in a little bit and do it. But let's try this again in a month and see what's going on. So.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Rob. Talk soon, buddy.
It's always good. It's good to see you.
Bye.
He's got that tidy edge shirt that I had on last week, which is pretty rad. So
gotta like that.
Well, absolutely. We covered a lot of ground here, friends. We covered a lot of ground. That's the Kids on the Escalator podcast for another week. I am on a plane in a couple of days to a place down south. So we may be on next week, or we may have a pre-record. I'm not sure what we're going to do just yet, but there will be something from us. Maybe it'll be you two talking. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll get you and Rob on, and you guys can host a show about Marvel and all the shit.
We'll figure something out, my friends. Yeah. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. My dad would like that one. That Leaf one we did there. I bet he liked that.
Gracious Gary. Absolutely. I hope everyone's great. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our Canadian friends, and kidsontheescalator.com for all the things. DeanBlundell.com for all the other things.
MacheteComics.ca.
Right there, MacheteComics.ca.
Beautiful.
Good times.
Rad dude who hasn't had dinner yet.
Enjoy your night, everybody. You haven't had dinner? Well, you better
I need dinner.
Go have.
Bye, guys. Cheers.